First, with the infighting raging within the Conservative Party over Rishi Sunak's Rwanda legislation, the government could be open to compromises with rebel, unhappy Tory MPs, according to the new legal migration minister. But Downing Street says they wouldn't preempt any deals ahead of the debate next week. Meanwhile, the Home Office's top civil servant has been accused of an extreme lack of respect for Commons committees over the disclosure of the price tag of the scheme, because that cost of the Rwanda Plan has now rocketed to an eye-watering, are you ready for this, 240 million quid without a single flight even leaving the ground. It's an astonishing amount of money, if you think about it. 240 million quid. They sent 3 Home Secretaries, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman and James Cleverly, and not a single person has even been deported. OK, have we got our guests? OK, so let's get the view now from Kigali. Adam Bradford is a resident of Rwanda. He is out there. Thanks for joining us on the show, Adam. It's become a huge political football in Britain, Rwanda. The huge sums of money, £240 million, as you just heard. It's dividing the Tory party right down the middle, the same as we saw with Brexit. It's causing a political war between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, one that could bring down the government and be a defining act of the next general election. Meanwhile, you're sitting in Rwanda. What's the reaction to the whole debacle in your home country, where you're sitting now?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think over here, there's a lot of confusion, and I think a lot of kind of undue criticism thrown at Rwanda because of the way that this has been handled. I mean, there's no issue over here with the deal at all. Our government back in the UK obviously set out this big policy to stop the boats, and I think this is it's a new and novel way of doing it. But Rwanda's got the resources, it's got the safety. It's not as if they're just going to come here and do nothing. The people who come here, they'll be trained, they'll be housed, they'll be put into work. There's a lot of rhetoric thrown about Rwanda being unsafe, but ironically, that's coming from the UNHCR, who are the same people who worked with the government here to bring Libyan refugees into the country. So there's a lot of hypocrisy and political, like you said, footballing happening. But from Rwanda's point of view, what's the problem? Yeah, well, exactly. What is the problem? I mean, there's a heck of a lot of money being given to Rwanda. Presumably, the locals are very happy about a cash injection. And not only that, but a political partnership with Britain, the mother of all democracies. You'd assume from a perspective of people who live in Rwanda, this is a win-win scenario. Yeah, and I've seen some of the kind of traditional media who would report on this story in a very different way to perhaps the way GB News is, and they would say that it's an unsafe country and Rwanda's took advantage of the cash, and they're incredible things to say because it's just completely biased. I mean, I think our politicians need to have a bit of a wake-up call to see the reality of Rwanda and how safe and progressive it actually is. I've lived and worked here for a year and a half and actually feel much safer in this city and this country than on the streets of London because, there's probably more chance of me getting stabbed or attacked there than in Kigali, where there's virtually no crime whatsoever. And in terms of work, Adam, because a key part of this legislation is that anybody who is refused an asylum claim, if they were granted an asylum claim, they would be able to return to the UK. But if they were refused an asylum claim, they would not be deported back to their host, their origin nation. They would stay in Rwanda and they would work. Now, as I understand it, Adam, there is a huge appetite for immigrant labour and lots of work to get weaving on. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot happening in technology. There's a huge need for hospitality employees, people working in public sector, people working in businesses here, small and large. I mean, I don't speak for Rwanda, but all I can say is that I've had positive experiences seeing the way that they're encouraging businesses and investors to come here. I'm one of those people who's been able to find a lot of opportunities here to grow what we've done as an organisation with our partners. And, even we're some of the ones who are looking for people to work for us. So it's a complete myth that there's something wrong with here, or there's no good work, or it's unsafe. I just think our government needs to get on with it, and our MPs need to get their act together, to be honest.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it, Adam. You've hit the nail on the head. Adam Bradford from Kigali, Rwanda. This guy lives there. He experiences it. He knows what he's talking about. And perhaps we should listen to people that actually have an eye on the ground, rather than the kind of rhetoric that it's the third world hellhole where nobody will be safe and they'll be thrown to the wolves. It paints a very different picture. If you actually speak to people on the ground, that's what we try and do at GB News.